He needs just 5 minutes sitting with the founders to make his decision. Any investor in the Valley, any advisor, any consultant is going to tell you. There are a lot of events in the Valley that are not advertised online. The best founders are like cockroaches and Terminator.
Wow.
Valery, here I am.
Welcome to another episode of Scale in Poland powered by Inna Global. Today I will have a conversation with Valery Yalouskikh, our mentor and speaker from Silicon Valley, our dearest guest who will share experience and knowledge how to scale in the United States. My name is Elena Malitskaya and I am CEO and founder of IC Corporate Accelerator and IC Group. And we cooperate with Valeri for the last, 5 years. And it's my pleasure and honor to have him together with us today in Warsaw and to get some information how we can scale, how we can cooperate, and what we can do with the United States. So let's build this bridge together. And my pleasure to welcome you, Valeri.
Thank you for having me, Elena. Glad to be here.
You have such incredible experience for the last 15 years living directly in the United States, and last 7 years you live in Palo Alto. Tell us more about your background so we can more understand who you are, what do you do, just to know you better.
Happy to share. So I'm living in the heart of the Silicon Valley area in Palo Alto. And for last, I would say, 8 to 9 years, I work with startups as a startup mentor, advisor, and consultant. Right now, I'm, as Elena mentioned, mentor at her ISE fund. I also venture partner at several venture syndicates and scout at several venture funds. And I also work as operating director at Graver Law Group, which provide legal services for startups and investors. That's about my background and current situation.
As I know, Valeri, you already helped dozens of startups to relocate to the United States. And it will be incredibly valuable for us to understand what to do, what not to do, what are success stories, what are failure stories when people relocate to the United States, and what they should know before coming to Silicon Valley. So let's maybe start from the question, what should our founders from this area, from Europe, from Eastern Europe, from post-Soviet countries do in order to relocate to the United States? How they should prepare themselves?
The best thing as a founder you can do is to build a great product. I understand that it's a very difficult thing to do when you're here, or generally very difficult thing to do. So my advice would be, if you want to relocate your startup to the United States, you need to understand at least 3 things. What are you going to do? If now you are working on a product, if now you have some traction or you're very ambitious and you decided that your business strategy, your startup and the United States, you need to understand they are compatible and you want to build to the what are you going to do? You want to if now you are working on a product in the United States, if now you have some traction or you're very ambitious and do you have money decided that your business, or how are you going to have money? Are you going to raise capital from outside investors, or are you going to start selling your product? So do your homework. Then, okay, you decided that you are ready to, let's say, burn the bridges and move to the USA. My advice, don't burn the bridges. Maybe not for everyone, just to burn bridges and leave everything behind of you. Have some plan B. The best and most effective way to move to the USA with your startups is to get accepted into an American accelerator, startup accelerator. Preferably Y Combinator or some good accelerators like TechCrunch or 500 or A16Z or some more accelerators. Then remember that you cannot just move to the USA. If you want to live and work here, you need to meet some requirements, for example, for getting visa, working visa. If you're a startup founder, the best way to do that is to build your case and get O1A visa, so-called talent visa. And of course, you need to remember that life in the US is generally, like life in any other country, is generally different from what your country is now. But again, getting accepted in top-notch accelerator like Y Combinator or 500 startups, Techstars, and so on, will definitely increase your chances for success. Not guarantee, but increase them.
I'm particularly interested to know more about accelerators, but before we come to this question, let's speak more about investors. I have seen statistics, I think it was researched by Stanford Graduate Business School, that 45%, about 50% of unicorns are done by international founders. So basically those people who just came, who relocated to the United States, not those who were born. And they have to come, they have to relocate, they have to accept the culture, another way of doing business. And maybe you have some kind of life hacks how European investors can adjust to American market, or what is the difference between European and American investors?
That's a great question again. Yes, about 46% of all American unicorns, so-called $1 billion and more companies, have foreign founders among their founders. It means the best of the best from around the world coming to the US and launch their businesses, and statistics does not lie in that case. What's the difference between how you raise money in the Valley and how you raise money outside the Valley? I would say that the most important thing which differ investors in the Valley from outside the Valley's investor is how top investors in Silicon Valley consider invest or not in a particular startups. For most Valley investors, the most important thing is founders, not idea, not market, not trends, not something else. The founders. Let me give you some more statistics. If you look at Y Combinator's top startups, we see that about, if I'm not mistaken, about 25% of all top VC startups were accepted in Y Combinator with different ideas, not with the idea that was turned into great companies. So, most Valley investors put their money bet on Joker, not on the horse. Founders and founders and founders. The second thing that differ top investors in the Valley from other investors is that they don't ask you to give them business plan for 50 pages or something like that. They
European style, and everyone asks you,
Yeah.
what is your projections for next 5 years?
Yes.
It's very European style approach.
I would tell you one thing. Ron Conway, the most famous angel investors in the world, that now he needs just 5 minutes. He needs just 5 minutes sitting with the founders one-on-one to make his decision whether he invests or whether he invests or whether he is not invest. 5 minutes. Another, my friend, actually very experienced investor, I'm not sure if I can name him. He said, if I'm not fall in love with founders, Nothing else can convince me to put my money in these founders. Not business plan, not market research, not some MBA's kind of stuff. I either believe or not in these founders.
By the way, who are the most prominent investors whom you would recommend to watch for startuppers? Maybe they are public, I don't know, Tim Draper or someone else. Who are the most excited investors, and we can see the trends when we watch them?
I would recommend, first of all, to watch Paul Graham, who is the founder of Y Combinator, and Y Combinator as well, because Y Combinator now has around 20 partners, and all of them actually invest their own money besides YC investments in their startups. Y Combinator, for more than 20 years operating in the startup world, got so significant and so unparalleled expertise and experience that nothing can be compared with that, I believe. Ron Conway, to whom I already mentioned, one of the another well-known, and by the way, he invests in many of Y Combinator startups as well. Also, pay attention for investors who are not very well known, but who actually has a great expertise and great portfolio. I mean, successful portfolio, successful startups. Because, some investors, good investors, they spend some time for self-promotion. Look at Jason Calacanis, for example, who not just wrote his excellent book, Angel, How to Turn $100,000 into $100 million, but also he is a host of in all very popular podcasts and so on.
Speaking about Y Combinator, it's such a prominent story. It seems like being part of Y Combinator gives some kind of golden ticket to startups. But whether it's true or not, does the participation in Y Combinator automatically guarantee success for the startup?
No one, but only founders, can ensure whether their startups will be successful or not. But I would say that Y Combinator, getting in Y Combinator is like getting a lucky lottery ticket. It does not guarantee a success of your startup, but it increases chances for success tremendously. Why? Because Y Combinator provides you not just money, $500,000, but they provide their unparalleled expertise, experience, network, and very important thing, you will become a member of YC family, which consists of around 4,500 startups right now. If you look at statistics, we will find out that about 5% of Y Combinator startups already are unicorns or decacorns or even more, something corns. 5%. It's incredible success story. It's a Y Combinator story. And I would say that actually it's probably more than 5%. 5%. Why? Because to become a big company and unicorn, you need an average about 10 years of very hard and stressful work. So probably it will be more than 5%.
Big difference of American ecosystem comparing to European is the speed of investing. Americans created many instruments to invest quickly. Can you speak more about safe agreement, what it is, how it works? Why should European investors research on it and be prepared to know this instrument?
Safe agreement, abbreviation for simple agreement for fewer equity. Safe agreement was invented again, but Y Combinator. It's like probably already 9 years ago, and it's a very helpful tool to quickly secure your investment for your startup from an investor. Why? Because it's perfectly drawn legal document, which is very founder friendly and actually investor friendly. You probably need just 10 or 15 minutes to fill out just 2 or 3 spaces in how much money investors invest in your startups, on what valuation, and that's it. And then you just put your initials and signature. You shake hands with investors, and investors can, within the next few minutes, actually, some investors do that, wire or transfer money to your startup's account. If you look at statistics in the Valley, probably more than 80% of all startups now use SAFE for getting money from investors in the Valley. Outside the Valley situation might be quite different. But by the way, it's a good way also to evaluate your investors. If your potential investors, for some reason, refuse to use Y Combinator's SAFE to give you money, it might be kind of red flag or at least a question point for you. Do you really need that, investors?
It's a very important point because every time when we have lectures in our accelerator about investors, we teach startups how to evaluate investor, to make your due diligence for investor. Who should take money? Should you take from them money or shouldn't? With whom you should work or not? Can you tell more how startups should evaluate investors, whether they are ready to participate or work together for the future or not? How to avoid some kind of weird people on your cap table?
You do a great work, Elena. I know that because I have been working with some startup founders from your program. At some of them, you know them. There's Sergey. He's now very successful, or at least on the way to to be successful. So, yes, if you're raising money, please do your own due diligence of investors. Rule number 1, never take money from toxic people. Or we can say, never take money from jerks. Because you're going to live with this investor for the next maybe 5, 7, or maybe 10 years. And you cannot get rid of them. You can divorce your spouse, but you can't get divorced an investor. So always remember about them. My basic advice for startup founders, because before you start raising money, put on paper or somehow your own requirements for investors. Minimal requirements. It's very important. Why? Because if you take money from bad investors or from toxic investors, you might put your startup in a bad situation. Because if you take money from some kind of jerk, and then you are trying to raise money from other investors, those so-called good investors might want to say you, I'm sorry, we don't be on the same cap table with some people you already got money from. The best way to evaluate unknown investors is to talk to founders of their startups. You have doubts about someone. Look at their portfolio. Call founders of startups, those investors already invested, and say, hi, I'm your fellow founders. I'm now raising money. I'm considering taking money from that investors. Can you share your experience? How's that investor? Did he help you or something like that? Just be polite, but be open. Founders in the Valley are very friendly. Everyone remember how it was time when they were trying to raise money from someone and also got help from some founders. Another thing to do, always have your own attorney. It's very, very, very important. Don't be a founder. I met probably a few months ago who got a very unpleasant situation because he used his investors' attorney for drawing some kind of documents.
An investor used him. Yes, he cheated.
Yeah.
What's the story?
Because, the story is the basic thing you need to remember as a founder that your investor is not your friend.
Your mother.
Maybe. It's not your father, it's not your mother, it's not your friend. It's just your business partner. And your interests and the interests of your investors might be different in some stage of your startup development. So be very careful. Okay, talk to other founders. Have your own attorney to evaluate any documents you're going to sign with investors. Never go to meetings to meet investors with all your team. If you raise money and you're a CEO and founder of a startup, just go alone to meet with investors. Don't bring your team. Why? Because if you bring all your founders on the meeting and very skillful investors can put you in situation when you need to respond to his offer to invest money, but non-favorable offer. When you don't have a co-founder with you, you always can say, oh, I need time to consider that, I need time to talk to my founder, something like that. It's just one of trick some investors do.
So you always recommend to have co-founder, right? So solo foundership is much harder and maybe less favorable from investor side. Or what do you think about it?
Don't be a solo founder. There is a universal advice. Any investor in the Valley, any advisor, any consultant is going to tell you if you're going to ask them. Don't be solo founder. Why? Investors don't like to invest in solo founders. Building startups is a very, very hard. And when you just a solo founder, it's even harder than for team. So don't be solo founder. Okay, you can say, but if you look at Y Combinator's batch, in every batch we can find from 10 to 15% of startups with solo founders. Yes. Investors still invest in solo founders. But anyway, it's much harder to convince them, especially when you're a first-time founder. Because if you're a solo founder who already built a big company or sold it, it's another situation. But when you're a first-time founder, it's actually very, very difficult to convince investors to give you money.
I want just come back to this story about Sorbiforce. Sorbiforce was our startup in 2021, who graduated from our acceleration program, and you know them pretty much, and they relocated to United States. And I've seen that recently they've had around about $1.5 million. And I believe that success of this Sorbiforce, of this technology, is due to Sergey Kaminsky, his personality, his outgoing and fun and very open mind. Can you just comment maybe about some kind of secret sauces that startups have to possess, or secret characteristics to make them successful while relocating?
Okay, it's a great story of Sorbiforce, and Sergey Kaminsky, from my point of view, is a classical example of founders who, you know how some investors say in the Valley, what is the best founders? What it's like to be best founders? And some say, the best founders are like cockroaches and Terminator.
Wow.
They survive in a very, very hard environment, and they always get things done. They always accomplish they always achieve despite of all hurdles and downs and stress and so on and so on and so on. So if we are talking about what characteristic the best founders have from the point of experienced investors, I would say, first of all, the best founders know how to get things done. The best founders are also very adaptable. They can change when necessary, but at the same time, they can be pretty persistent despite all difficulties to keep their way how they believe they need to do. The best founders also are great communicators. You cannot be the best founders if you cannot communicate, because as a CEO or founder, you are in mode of like always be closing, because you need to convince investors to give you money. You need to convince co-founders, potential founders, or employees to join your team. You need to convince, especially when you're working with B2B businesses or enterprise as a clients, you need to convince your client to buy a product for you. So communication skills. Then you need to be not just confident in yourself. The best founders probably are overconfident. You can't build something from the scratch if you genuinely don't believe in your ability to do that. It's very, very important feature, I would say. The next thing, the best founders are pretty good in coping with stress. It's very important thing to remember. And also, it's where co-founder might be helpful. I remember once Michael Seibel, who is a partner at Y Combinator, he said in one of his public speaking events and so on, that the main important help you can get from your founders is getting emotional support. Because when you are a founder, you're always under the stress, you are always under the pressure, you're always under hundreds of deadlines or commitments you already have. And cope with all of that, it's very difficult.
Let's imagine that I am a startup who is coming to Silicon Valley for the first time. So how much money is I supposed to have, or what is your advice? How should I prepare myself to this trip to Silicon Valley?
Okay, I always say, if you're a foreign founder and you have never been in America, and especially in the Silicon Valley, and you are planning your trip there, just plan it. Don't come to Silicon Valley for a few days if you can afford yourself to come for a few weeks. Why? Because you need to understand some dynamics, some kind of internal things that are very different from any other environment in the world. My advice is plan your trip, make a budget, so don't be in a situation when you don't have money to buy a ticket back home. I'm not kidding, by the way. That situation which I personally witnessed. And of course, don't be afraid to ask help. The main feature, the main characteristic of the Valley startup ecosystem, I would say that when you are a founder, you came to the Valley and you say, okay, hi Valley, here I am. I am a founder of startup. Everyone will be very interested in what you are doing, in what you are working on, and how they can help you. Because to be the founder in the Valley, it's like to be from the the highest kind of class of the local society, I would say, not like in many other places.
Maybe there is some particular networking clubs that I should know, or how to actually intervene into ecosystem, how to get access to ecosystem. Maybe there are some particular events that I should attend. So how to get most in the short period of time?
If you want to get connected with some useful people in the valley, for example, are you going to raise money in a few months, for example, and you want to get to the valley in advance and get some connection with potential investors? So what to do in that case? First of all, look at the internet, look at meetup.com. It's one of the greatest resources for you to get know people when you participate in right events for you. It's open events, they're open for everyone. Some are free, some are like paid events, but not too much. Look, try to organize your event around the main, one of the main, or try to organize, your visit around one of the main events in the valley, like TechCrunch, Disrupt, or SaaS, or some Google conference or something like that. Because there is a chance that you can get into this event, not just as a guest, a participant, but you can also apply to organizers of this event, apply to pitch your startup during that event. Then, talk to founders. I repeat myself, but I need to do that. Founders in the valley, investors in the valley are very friendly. Even if you send a cold message through LinkedIn on X or cold email, if you write it in the right way, the chances that you get response and maybe some help are pretty good. For example, Michael Seibel, who is a partner of Y Combinator, as I said earlier, again, he actually read all emails and his email is open. You can find it on the internet. Just be precise. Just ask very kind of thoughtful and meaningful question. If you need something, ask about that. If you need help, ask about that. Talk to founders one more time. Because there are a lot of events in the valley that are not advertised online. A lot of events. Many investors like to organize their private events, private pitch sessions, or something like that at their residences. They don't advertise them. But you can somehow to get invited if you know someone. So work on your networking. Get knowing people. How to do that? Even you are not in the valley, go to Hacker News, go to specialized group on Reddit, for example, follow investors on LinkedIn, X, or wherever they write blogs. Some investors, many investors actually like to express their thoughts on startups, and they write blogs, on they tweet, or how we can call them, they post on X or something like that. And don't be shy. Don't be shy. The best founders are very good in self-promotion.
Actually, this is a great life hack that you told, that the best deals are done on a secret private parties. It's something to memorize, you know. What would you recommend for our founders to read or to watch, just in order to understand better the culture of the Silicon Valley?
I recommend to watch Silicon Valley TV series. It's ironic, it's kind of comedy, but it shows you the real life of founders inside the valley. Also, a must-read 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. Also, Y Combinator Library is the best library in the world. It contains everything you need to know about launching and working on your startup and be successful as a startup founder.
Yeah, thank you, Valeri. Once again, we had a conversation with Valery Yalouskikh, advisor and mentor from Silicon Valley. And we recommend to get in touch with him via social media or via our LinkedIn page. Valeri is always open to answer any questions. And I believe it will be very beneficial for both of you. Thank you, our audience. And thank you, Valeri, for being with us.
Thank you for having me.